Ha, olur. Bir dakika. Ah.
Can, can, yes, I can. You can hear me. Yes, welcome to TÜSİAD event. I'm Nurşen Numanoğlu, Deputy Secretary General at TÜSİAD, and in this event we will talk about carbon neutrality and a roadmap to address this challenging issue. The effects of climate change is are deepening both on international scale and in Turkey as well. And representing the Turkish business, TÜSİAD positioning this challenging issue on top of its agenda, and the achievement of Paris objectives is one of our strategic priorities. We emphasize the need for a concrete roadmap which ensures policy consistency and holistic approach. And we believe this roadmap should be a basis for Turkey's NDC under the agreement. We also believe this roadmap is an essential step in terms of green transformation and predictability of the investment environment. Today, we have very distinguished speakers in this event. It is an honor, Deputy Minister Professor Birpınar, to have you here in the panel. Executive Director of International Energy Agency, Dr. Birol, thank you for accepting our invitation. We have very distinguished high executives of Turkey's leading companies, and we have EBRD, last but not the least. EBRD is a sine qua non for funding of green investments, and so I would like to invite Mr. Birol for keynote speak.
Mr. Minister, dear colleagues, very good afternoon to all of you. Many thanks to TÜSİAD for inviting me to say a few words before I will listen to the remarks of the Minister and the distinguished business leaders of Turkey, as well as my colleague from EBRD. So, dear colleagues, first things first. First things first, congratulations to Republic of Turkey for the ratification of Paris Agreement on 6th of October. This was a cumbersome process as far as I understood, but at the end of the day, it is finalized, and a special congratulations to Mr. Minister for your personal engagement there, and all the others who have contributed to this very good outcome. Turkey, as a member of G20 and part of the important part of the international community, committing itself to reduce the emissions significantly in the next years to come was a must, and this has been fulfilled, and I am very happy that on 6th of October we all heard this good news. Now, this is very good. Now, moving a bit outside of Turkey to come back again, dear colleagues, you all follow, I guess, what is happening in the energy and climate world. If I can summarize with one line, a new global energy economy is emerging, and emerging very fast. Solar, wind, efficiency, electric cars, nuclear power, they are moving very quickly across the world. If any country in this world does not position its economy in the right way and at the right time, there is a very strong risk that that economy will be left behind and the others go through. And it is the very reason I am very happy that Turkey, by ratifying Paris Agreement, made the first and important step. In fact, when you look at the Turkish energy system, we already see a lot of encouraging news. In terms of renewables, solar and wind, huge growth in the last few years. In terms of the installed capacity growth last year, Turkey was the 4th in Europe and 11th in the world. Very strong numbers. Having said that, at the IEA, we are looking at the global potential. While Turkey's solar, for example, increased so much, it is only 3% of the economic potential that Turkey can use. Even though wind increased so much, it is only 15% of the potential that Turkey has. So there is a huge potential in terms of renewable energy. I think Turkey again makes a good step, in my personal view, in terms of starting the nuclear adventure, diversifying its energy mix with a reliable and low carbon electricity generation source. Nuclear in many countries can play a very important role. Of course, here the most important issue is what kind of technologies we choose, which partners we work with, and how are we going to integrate this in our energy systems. I also find it very timely that Turkey has now an energy efficiency action plan. I guess Mr. Bulgurlu will talk about this as well. This is a very important action plan, and of course the implementation is as important as the putting the plan on the table. Dear colleagues, what I recommend the other governments, because we talk with many governments who are asking for advice. The situation, the countries which are more or less the same situation like Turkey, in fact, most of the countries are a similar situation. My suggestion to government leaders is to build a concrete roadmap. How you are going to realize this target. With the concrete, I mean which energy sources, which investment, what are the sources of those financement for those investments, what to push, what to pull. It is not only important to find out or identify which technologies you are going to push, which fuel sources you want to incentivize. It is also important to note what kind of technologies you want to leave behind, what kind of fuel sources you want to leave behind in order to reach your climate goals. I would like to finish by two general remarks. I see a race among the economies of the world to put their economies in an advantageous position in the next chapter of the global energy industry. It can be solar, it can be wind, it can be electric cars, it can be different efficiency technologies. And the countries are pushing this very strongly. This is important. Not only to reduce the emissions, but only because of the economic potential. Many governments that are providing incentives for new advanced energy technologies are doing this in order to have a good position in the next chapter of the global economy, which is emerging. Why I'm saying this is that some people may tell you, I think the climate change is not my issue. This country should do it, that country should do it. There is a point, everybody should do it. But even there was not an issue of called climate change. Unfortunately, there is, but even there was not. I think we have to, every country who wants to be part of the global economy of the future needed to push the advanced clean energy technologies. This is one point that I wanted to finish. Now, a global note, and I stop here. There was a lot of skepticism before the COP26. Some of you may know that we have been working with the presidency and many government stakeholders to come up with at least some encouraging outcomes from this meeting. And we have seen in the last few days several new pledges, commitments coming from governments on top of what we had before the COP. Most important ones being the India, 1.4 billion people, India coming with a commitment. And the second, this very important greenhouse gas, methane pledges have been made by the key players here. And this is, if we put all of them together, which I asked my colleagues at the IEA to do, what does it mean if all these pledges up to now in terms of emission reduction and plus the methane is fulfilled, what does it bring us to? The answer is very encouraging, at least I believe encouraging, which is it brings the world on a trajectory which is in line with 1.8 degrees Celsius temperature increase. This is much better than what we had a year ago. There is no guarantee that those commitments will be fulfilled. But a good news for the International Energy Agency is COP presidency just yesterday asked the IEA as of next year to be the gendarmerie, the police of those pledges. We are going to look every country, every year, what they said, what they committed and what they did, and publish the results and share with the rest of the world. And if a request comes, provide policy advice to those countries if there is a gap to narrow that gap. With this, dear colleagues, I would like to thank you once again to my colleagues from TÜSİAD, and once again congratulate Mr. Minister for the ratification of the Paris Agreement, and I hope that in Turkey and elsewhere we see a very fast transition of clean energy. Very many thanks. Thank you.
If there's any one question, I would like to convey this message to Mr. Birol. Is there any question? Yeah, there is one. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you for your excellent speech. I would like to know more about actually the topic of today on Turkey's pathway for carbon neutrality in the future. And I wonder how to cut down emissions for natural gas plants, because definitely coal-fired power plant will reduce the use in the future. And then, so I would really like to know, we will be putting more carbon capture storage projects at Turkey. Thank you.
So two things. First, who are you? And the second, who the question is for? It is not for me, it's for the minister?
Yes.
Okay.
After.
Okay, he's
right.
going to talk now.
All right. My name is Jia Li from Shanghai Jiaotong University.
Is there any question for Mr. Birol? I will take only one question.
I would like to ask a question to our good friend. I visited him in his office in Paris. We are proud of him. And I clearly remember that in Napoli there was a meeting, ministerial meeting of G20, ministers from G20 countries, Minister of Environment and also Minister of Energies. We met there in Napoli just 4 or 5 months ago, And in there we had a bilateral meeting with Mr. John Kerry. Just after that, he went to China. And two things happened after he went to China. And I would like to know, if you know, of course, the inside of that meeting. Of course, it is impossible to meet, but it is very much related to the energy. China started importing coal from all over the world, and the price of the coal increased from $50 to $300 in 3 months' time. Do you think he advised them to buy a coal from all over the world? Because now all the coal power plants in my country and the others, they are bankrupt. The second thing is their leader went to New York in the UN Assembly, and he declared that the China will never invest abroad, invest coal power plants abroad. That was another key point. I mean, these two issues are the game changer on mindset shift, actually. So what do you think about that? I mean, because now it is very important, it's becoming more and more important.
So, Mr. Minister, of course, the coal prices, gas prices are very high these days, and this is mainly driven by a huge demand growth coming from China, India, Europe, and elsewhere, mainly as a result of a rebound of the global economy. Global economy is growing this year 6%, which is the highest increase of the global economy since last 50 years. And as a result, we are seeing this increase coal, gas, and oil prices, and I hope that it will be short-lived because it will have implications for the global economic growth. For the second point you mentioned, it is a critical decision. The President Xi Jinping said China is not anymore invest in coal project outside of China. This is huge. This is huge. To explain you how big it is, the emission savings as a result of this decision of China not building coal plants outside of China is, since we have a European colleague here, is equal to the emission savings of Europe will have as a result of Fit for 55. All the European countries' emission reductions as a result of this strategy is equal to China deciding not to invest in coal outside of China. Huge gain. And we are going to see that many countries are going to follow the footsteps of China and the others. It will be very, very difficult now in the world to have coal investments financed by the international partners. So difficult days for coal have started. In a few years of time, we will see that the coal consumption will decline significantly. So I hope we all know that the coal is the largest source of emissions in the world as we speak. With this, I would like to thank once again TÜSİAD for inviting me. And if there are some other questions, please, you can ask my colleague Nurşen. I am sure you are going to answer them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bureau. And now we can start the panel under the auspices of Mr. Minister Mehmet Emin Birpınar. Let me first introduce our distinguished speakers. Cevdet Alemdar, he is TÜSİAD board member, and also he is Energy and Environment Roundtable president. And in the business side, he is Industry Group president in Sabancı Holding. Mr. Hakan Bulgurlu, TÜSİAD member and CEO of Arçelik. Atalay Gümrah, TÜSİAD member, CEO of Eczacıbaşı Holding. and EBRD representative Harry Boyd Carpenter. He is managing director on green economy and climate action. The floor is yours, Mr. Minister. Thank you so much for having us.
Well, I thank you yourself and also the TÜSİAD for organizing this beautiful panel here in the afternoon of Friday. And we have been here almost one week, and then we have another week here to discuss the issues. We have too many side events going on here in Turkish pavilion, and thank you very much, first of all, to Mr. Birol and other panelists to join, to share their experiences here. And I asked my questions to Mr. Birol, and then I would like to ask each of you 2 questions so that you may answer, of course, I mean, according to your positions. But before that, I would like to tell you that Turkey has been negotiating in this under the UNFCCC more than 25 years. I mean, the position of Turkey was a little bit difficult, and here even Turkey is alone but not lonely. I mean, we are not in any group. I mean, we are not in the group of G77 plus China or umbrella group. Turkey is a valuable loneliness. So that is, we call it valuable loneliness. So they have to, UNFCCC and others, and the presidency should consult us and should do, because of the position of Turkey, because Turkey in 1992 was listed in Annex 1 and Annex 2 both, and we couldn't ratify the agreement until 2004 after being excluded from Annex 2. Even though in that time Turkey was not supposed to be listed in Annex 1 and Annex 2, as everybody knows. I have been explaining this one almost in every platform, all the bilaterals during our negotiations here. But why it was just like that? Because Turkey was the founder, one of the founders of OECD, and also the candidate state of the European Union in that time. Even though like Mexico, Brazil, Argentina, South Korea was non-annex countries, but Turkey was listed in the annexes. But Turkey ratified the convention in 2004 by staying in Annex 1. And then after that ratified the Kyoto Protocol, and now this year, after negotiating since Paris 2015, we ratified with the support, with the declaration of our President, Mr. Erdogan, in UN, not only the ratification of Paris Agreement, also 2053 net zero target also was given. And once we believe something, we just work on it. So now Turkey ratified the agreement very clearly in the first day of the opening of the parliament, with the support of all the parties. 353 votes came even from the opposition parties. So already it is done. And also this 2053 target, net zero target, already established, and also the name of our ministry changed. Now Ministry of Environment, Urbanization and Climate Change. And also we have an office of climate change, and will work, maybe 250 people will work there in order to fulfill this net zero target. And we will have short-term, mid-term and the long-term strategies in order to fulfill the net zero target. So why we are so late? Because as far as I remember that when we were in Paris, the issue of Turkey was not resolved, because we just wanted to reach the financial climate finance in order to mitigate more. We always say Turkey has a potential of mitigation, huge potential of mitigation. So international climate finance should come to Turkey in order to combat, in order to address the climate change. But especially the developing country parties, least developed country parties, and small island states, they were against that. I mean, they don't want to share their pie, of course. I mean, because they think that every year 100 million billion of dollars to the GCF, Green Climate Fund, and this part, the 50% of it goes to adaptation and 50% goes to the mitigation. But until now, only they have 8 billion American dollars to share. That's not that easy to collect this money, and of course these are debts and these credits. Once you get it, you have to pay it back. But we always say that Turkey has a potential, and we can be the leader in the region, and not only in the region but in the Middle East also. You cannot compare our country with the population, with the other countries with the population of 2 million, 3 million in our region. If the Turkey ratifies this agreement, can be the leader, the climate leader. So we have been discussing, but internally also the discussions with our stakeholders, with the different ministries and in the industry. So this organization is being done now by TÜSİAD. When we asked the TÜSİAD just 6 years ago, they were completely against ratification of this Paris Agreement, because we used to see this Paris Agreement as a threat to our development, because they were just, they developed those countries. Now they don't want us to develop, but our people, our children also, they want to charge their iPhones, their mobile phones, whatever. I mean, but these countries, they are against our development. We were thinking like that, almost everyone. But now we see this as a great opportunity to pave the way for green development revolution. So I always say that, I mean, there was a wild industrial revolution in 80s, after finding the fossil fuels, and Turkey just skipped this because of the Ottomans' last days. And then after the IT revolution was there, Turkey, because of the interior problems, we skipped that one too. Now we have a potential of green development revolution, which was already declared by our minister, Mr. Kurum, and also in every speech of Mr. Erdogan, he's always talking. So we have to get on this train. This is great green development revolution, as Fatih Birol Bey said. This is a shift of the economy, and we have to be there. So that is wild development to sustainable development, one pillar. Another is linear economy to circular economy. So if we are going to have a sustainable development, fulfill the sustainable development goals, and also the circular economy rules and regulations, then Turkey and also the other countries, if they follow this very simple two things, they can be developed countries in the future. Because just like South Korea, they were on the pave of IT, information technology development, and then now we cannot consider South Korea as a developing country. They are already developed. So we have to follow. This is good for our countries, for people, and for the future generations. So we have to work together with our industry. So this is a good opportunity for us, the Turkish Industry and Business Association, TÜSİAD, to have this one, and they have Turkish industry in the largest scale. It's also the member of Turkish. I mean, they are also our member, the Turkish Climate Change and Adaptation Coordination Board, for years, and we have been together. So now I would like to ask two questions for each of you. First of all, if I allow me, I would like to ask Mr. Ahmet Cevdet Alemdar. They prepared good questions for you. I will just convey.
Easy one, sir.
So, Mr. Alemdar, As a Sabancı Holding, as we are hearing that you have a net zero target by 2050, so what is included in your decarbonization roadmap? I mean, what is that? What is that in your, what are you going to do about that? And the second one, I will ask the second question and, okay, you will go. Okay. And my second question is that to achieve the sustainability goals, all institutions, especially the companies, need to take responsibility and act together. So Sabancı Holding has many groups of companies, as far as we know, operating in different areas and also in many countries. How is the coordination and collaboration structure with your group companies? So these are the two questions. You may answer, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. I'm here with two capacities. One is I'm the chair of TÜSİAD's Roundtable for Sustainability and Energy, and the other one is my business, my livelihood from NGO, that is Sabancı Group's conglomerates, industry head, industry president. And a couple of words on TÜSİAD's stance here. First of all, as you mentioned, as Mr. Birol mentioned, as TÜSİAD, we are very happy that Paris Agreement has been ratified. And together with the European Green Deal, we think that this is a very good way forward for all of us, not only in terms of compliance with the international standards or international trade, but also, as previous speaker also mentioned, also as the opportunities for future potential, particularly in technology side and also in the business side. So to name a few here, what do I mean with this is, one of them is the human capital, particularly the ingenuity of the Turkish human capital. And the other one is, again, together with the sustainability revolution, if I may call it, Turkey's strategic position in the global supply chains also gives a pretty good opportunity for Turkey with sustainability revolution. And sustainability, in short, is we don't recognize it as a threat, but as a very good opportunity for business. And above the business, it's also a moral responsibility to the future generations. As per Sabancı Holding, I will be telling lots of examples. I will be even mentioning a couple of technologies, but at the back of it, at the foundation of it, is the principle that our founder, Mr. Hacı Ömer Sabancı, has mentioned is over there, which is the core value of all the things we are doing towards sustainability, which is, I mean, roughly it can be translated as giving what we took from this land more to the land. Yani bu topraklardan aldığımızı bu topraklara vermek. That's the core value of Sabancı Holding. And everything that I will be mentioning about numbers, etc., is not only business, it's also a moral obligation to our country and also to the world. Coming to the numbers and coming what we have done towards sustainability, one is we are honored to be the first conglomerate in Turkey to announce net zero target for 2050, even before ratification of Paris Agreement, and also before the announcement of the European Green Deal. And we not only did this for the conglomerate itself, but also for its all entities, for all the sectors that we are in, that is energy, industry, automotive, and finance, obviously. And regarding that, I mean, for example, to give a couple of examples in energy, today 100% of our new investments are on renewables. We are right now making an investment on 500 megawatts plus on wind. And even today we have 44% of our capacity on renewables, which in 2025 we will exceed the threshold of 50%. That's no small ordeal, because our energy group is the biggest distributor and manufacturer of the private sector energy in Turkey. Another one is industry. On industry, there are 3 companies in Turkey that are in the CDP's, carbon disclosure projects, both climate and weather and water level counted as leader levels, as A levels. And out of those 3 companies, 2 of them are Sabancı companies. That is, that also gives us some flesh around the bone of what we are announcing as we will go there. And all our companies are right now working on their science-based objectives. And Brisa stood out to be the first one to announce and to get approval of its science-based objectives in Turkey, and also in the tire industry, one of the first also globally as well. So we are not doing those, and also on the finance side, Akbank has done the first green repo for $300 million. It was a significant first one in Turkey with Deutsche Bank, and now announced to be the first commercial bank who will who committed to spare 200 billion Turkish liras until 2030. But we are not only doing those in Turkey. I mean, we are also doing this outside all the countries that we operate. And in the R&D level, roughly about 70% of R&D expenditure in industry area goes to the sustainability. And for example, we have developed a special environment-friendly chemical which has been patented, and now 80% of the world's tire manufacturing has signed to use this patented and free of charge platform for manufacturing of tires in Turkey. But are those singular cases? Are those just examples, just numbers that we are throwing around? No, it is the effort that counts. It is results are just results. I mean, examples are just examples. But it is the effort, it is the sweat, it is the sweat and tear that's on the backside that counts. In that respect, what I can tell is, for example, IEA recently announced an energy efficiency program and said that last 10 years in the world, roughly annual improvement has been around 0.8%. When we check Sabancı numbers, we are double that. Every year in the last 10 years, every year we are making 1.7% energy efficiency improvement. That doesn't come just with words. That comes with sweat, tears, and serious operational effort put on the business. And now we are exceeding this. We are putting this to be 2.5% in the coming years. And then is it only effort? No, it is also the systems that ensures the continuity of such efforts. For the system side, that's your second question. For our initiatives around future of work and how we are investing on our people on the new way of working, I will not go to the details of them. But one thing stood out over there, I think worth mentioning, it is that remuneration package of all the leaders of Sabancı Holding are now incorporate sustainability goals. That is, all the executive committee and all the CEOs of Sabancı Holding have sustainability goals incorporated to their compensation packages. I mean, I think that says a lot of things in itself. So overall, within the core value of Sabancı Holding, we have started to be an important player not only in Turkey but in the world, to be an important player for technology development and for putting our R&D into force. So that summarizes in general.
Well, thank you very much. As far as we know, that you have a university also in our country, very famous one, and you have a climate politics institution there, and then they are working very hard. They are preparing too many reports about the climate for years, as far as I know. That's also very valuable. I mean, of course, the companies should adapt themselves to the climate change for the coming for the coming world. Otherwise, you will be left behind. Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, your goods, whatever you produce, there will be no one to buy it. So even not only here, but all over the world. So that's supposed to be, all of them supposed to be green. We know that once you produce something in our country, if you want to export that one, those companies are coming to your factories to check whether your energy system is coming from the renewable or whether you have a zero waste management or whatever, even for the workers, their health and everything. So this is a global world now. I mean, so we have to adapt to the climate change in the business sector also, and the factories and the holdings, whatever. So thank you very much for your contribution.
If I may, Mr. Minister,
Please.
thank you very much for the comment. One thing I should add, we are doing this also with the leadership responsibility. And as of today, our products are being sold in electric batteries in United States, in aircrafts with environment-friendly, the green airplanes as of now. And we are, it's not only Turkey, but we take it as Sabancı Holding with the understanding and of the responsibility of being a leader in this area.
Yes, thank you very much for your comments. And now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Muharrem Gümrah. He's the CEO of Eczacıbaşı Holding. And you are the one, right? Okay. So we are in the last 10 critical years for climate action. The effects of the climate change are felt in many years. So the question is, how do you think the consequences of the climate change will affect the operations of companies in the future? I mean, not only your company, but in general, you may answer this question, or how Eczacıbaşı Holding is getting prepared for this future. And the second one is the Eczacıbaşı Holding. You aim to make a difference by focusing on sustainable innovation. To reach your sustainability targets, what kind of applications do you carry out in the entire value chain? I mean, these are two questions you may answer, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Minister. I am honored to be part of this event with your leadership and with the organization of TÜSİAD. Coming from your first question, actually, as we all know, the world is really getting very challenging times, and it looks like the future will be more challenging than it is if we don't take action today onwards. And as you rightly pointed out, it is not just as the industry people that we need to decide, but our children or our customers push more pressure on us to take action from today onward in order not to have a difficult world for them in the future. And from the industrial perspective, we have really three areas where we believe we need to focus to ensure a better world in the future. One of them is the energy resources that we use. Within the Eczacıbaşı Holding, we have some areas where we are a heavy energy user, like the ceramic kilns, where we burn the clay up to 1200 degrees within some 40 minutes and then cool down to room temperature. And currently there is no way of doing it through the electrification. It's based on the natural resources like natural gas or LNGs. So the fossil fuel is still an important part of our industrial application, and that's one area we believe where we need to act. The second one is obviously water. As you know better than us, the water resources in our geography are scarce, and with the climate change, we feel more pressure on the water. So there are forest fires that we experienced this year. There are shortages in the water resources in the big cities, and also we see sudden rainfalls which affect the livelihood of remote environment as well. That's why as a country and as the industrial people we need to focus more on the use of the water. Not only in our industrial framework, but with the products that we provide to the people, we should make sure that the home use of the water also should be reduced. The recycling of water, not only in the industries, but at the home also, should be a serious point. So water is the second area where we believe the industrial companies take action, and as Eczacıbaşı Holding, we give lots of consideration to the water. And finally, we believe that, again, as you mentioned, going from the linear economy to the circular economy is getting more important. Because in the linear economy, you don't care what happens to your products, because you want to sell more. But when you come to the circular, not even with your products, but with whatever you use in your production framework, you need to reduce your waste to find new areas of application for all you use. So those three areas are the focus areas in Eczacıbaşı Group to consider for the climate change challenges. And when we look at those three areas, what we see is that there are short-term, mid-term, and long-term applications that we need to do. In the short term, there are available technologies, available application through which you can really help the climate change that we do. For example, again, coming up to your second question, with different innovation project, we try to make more efficient kiln utilization. We try to use less material for the product so that the kiln temperature needed to burn is less than we used to do. Again, for some minerals, we use lots of processes to reduce the residue, refiltration of the residue. So those are the areas really where we can focus from today onward. In the water, we nearly recycle 80% of all the water that we use in our factories. And the aim is to grow day by day so that we come to 100% reuse of the water that we take from the nature. On the other hand, in the recycling, we have two projects. One is internal project. So, for example, our ceramic sanitary ware manufacturing have some sludge that we give to our tile manufacturing, and they use as an input. And from the tile industry, some of our residues are used in the cement industry. So rather than throwing them away. Or in our paper tissue business, some of the sludge that comes out from the tissue paper mills goes to shoe-in-hole manufacturer in the nearby application. That's why the recycling also take a big picture. So all those things can be done with the available technologies, available resources. The second one is obviously the investments that we can do to use more clean energy. What we are trying to do is more and more use solar on our roofs. We already established 2 big solar investments for our own use in some of our manufacturing and mining sites. And now the aim is to make all our new investment with the photovoltaic roofs so that at least the energy need of our current operations are somehow provided by our own photovoltaic generator. And currently we are running 3 new investments, and all those new investments have solar and wind in it. And thanks to the Ministry of Industry, we had some good subsidies to support those activities within our investment plan. The third one, the most difficult one, is the technologies that are not available today. As I mentioned, we have big kilns that needs to go up to 1200 degrees. I'm sure the same problem happens for Sabancı Group, for cement industry. So there's no available technology today to go from the fossil to the green energy. There we are following, and we are working with the universities, NGOs, and different associations where the world is going. And then we see hydrogen. And we are trying to really follow what will come next, whether it will come in 5 years' time or 10 years' time, what Turkey will take as a position. And those are, I think, the areas where both the government, the industry, and the universities needs to work together. As I said, and we can talk of 3 by 3 axes. So water, fossils and circular economy, the rows, and the columns are short-term available technologies, mid-term investment to go green, and long-term opportunities that we need to chase for the transformation. So that's how we look at the whole picture in Eczacıbaşı Holding. When it comes to innovation, especially in the building and in mining side, our innovation teams heavily work on two areas. One is the use of material. How we can reduce the material that we use in manufacturing. So have smaller toilet pans, have smaller taps, use less paper for paper tissues. So less is more is the biggest concept in our innovation. And the second one obviously is the efficiency, especially for the kiln. How efficient can be our kilns if we change the formulation of the skill and formulation and the skill sets of the people, how we can use less resources are the areas, and there are very good examples of them, and we keep getting some rewards and remuneration from different parties for the innovation. And I believe in this year's TÜSİAD Awards, for example, our mining organization has received a reward about using more refiltration from the residues. So those are the areas where we focus on.
Yeah, thank you very much. Of course, I mean, for your comments are valuable and very interesting. Our generation and the generation before us, they polluted this world. So we have to apologize from the very beginning, from the future generations. We have to accept this. Because the generation before my grandfather's generation, I remember that my grandfather, we used to collect, he used to have a beautiful garden in Konya where Rumi is placed in the center. I was a child, we used to go and collect the cherries from the tree. And he used to say, don't collect this branch, leave this one for the birds.
Yes, yes.
This is the zakat of this tree.
Your responsibility to the
So,
nation.
and I asked him why, because he used to say that this tree doesn't give this fruit only for us, but for the others. So we have to respect the others.
Exactly.
That is very important. I mean, whatever we do, we respect the others. And my grandmother, she died when she was 98 years old on the top mountain of the Torostor. That's in the Mediterranean. She never went to school. She never studied in the United States. She never went to learned any other. She didn't know how to write and read. But when she was putting the wooden to the stove, she was hitting it against the floor. And I was asking her, why you are doing this? She said, maybe there is an ant inside. There's maybe something who's already living inside, so they can box or something, so that they can leave before I take it to the stove. She was an environmental literate.
Yes, yes, incredible.
Maybe she hasn't studied anything. So the education doesn't mean that, I mean, we're always saying that education is important, okay, but I mean, she never went to school, but she was respecting the environment that she was in. And he was respecting, because my grandfather used to think that this tree will give us fruits next year again. So they were not responsible, but my fathers and my generation are responsible to change the climate change. So we are the one to solve the problem.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for your comments, sir. And now I would like to ask questions to our friend from Arçelik, CEO of, I would like to turn to Hakan Hamdi Bulgurlu. Mr. Bulgurlu, welcome.
Thank you.
And as far as we know that Arçelik puts sustainability at the center of all its operations and follows the motto, the respecting the world and respected worldwide. What does it mean to you to accepted sustainability as a business model, and what are the factors that contributed to your leadership in the field? And the second one, Turkey just ratified the Paris Agreement, as I said, which will bring a surge in climate efforts, considering your strong presence in emerging markets. Where do you see these countries with the larger global net zero targets?
First of all, I want to thank you personally for your effort in getting the Paris Agreement through Parliament, because that really was the biggest threat in front of Turkish business, I think, or my business personally as well. Arçelik is a big exporter out of Turkey. Today, 30% of our business is in Turkey. We operate everywhere in the world, 28 plants, 9 countries. And sustainability for a long time has been, as you said, at the heart of what we do. I think that vision statement was set in 2008. We really started acting in that way soon after, and we changed the way we do absolutely everything. And I think that statement you use, sustainability is a business model, I used in a World Bank conference in 2015. And we really mean it. What do we mean by that? Today, to differentiate in the world, in a commoditizing world, it is very, very difficult to do so by marketing investment, but actually being the most sustainable brand and business in the world is a definite differentiator. You move up the value chain in a world where consumers, the most recent BCG study shows 65% of consumers are willing to pay more for products and services that do right by the world. This is, of course, more relevant in the Western world than the Eastern world. I think it was the right business strategy. How did we get there? Well, we stopped saying what we will do, and we just started doing. 2019 and 2020, Arçelik was carbon neutral already. And it's very important to make the distinction that we became carbon neutral not by buying carbon credits, but by creating our own credits. Because buying credits that don't have an impact ultimately, there was a lot of greenwashing in the past, is not a solution going forward. Like Eczacıbaşı has done, investing in solar panels on every surface, for example, is a good example for creating your own credits. But in addition to that, we have made some important claims, and that relates to your second question, or targets. We have become carbon neutral in what is called Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions, which is what you consume, I'll simplify things roughly, in your manufacturing processes for your products and services. Scope 3 emissions are what the consumer emits when using your product in their home. Scope 3 emissions are the most important, and no one even talks about them. Of 200 largest companies in the world, only 40% report them. Not only do we not report them, we don't measure them in general. But Arçelik here, again, has established leadership. We announced here at COP that we will reduce our Scope 3 emissions by 50% till 2030. Now, 50% means that as discussed earlier, the technology is not there. It means that we will focus a majority of our human capital and money and innovation efforts in creating technologies that will make that possible. Why is that important? And with that, I'll go on to your second question. Because we cannot expect, Arçelik has leadership positions in Pakistan, Bangladesh, we have factories in India, Thailand, very populous parts of the world, which are growing fast, and penetration levels for appliances are very low. Why is that important? Because you're not going to tell somebody in Pakistan or Bangladesh to not buy a refrigerator, because it's simply food security, it's vaccine security. They will buy that refrigerator. You just have to make sure that that refrigerator is the highest possible energy level. And today, unfortunately, regulation is not there. So governments really need to strengthen energy efficiency legislation if we are to avoid the problem of having to replace something in the future. I'll give you a specific example. India, air conditioning penetration rate is 6%. Japan, it's 95%. In India, and by the way, climate impact or climate warming is warming India much faster than anywhere else. So we are in a position of telling India, no, it's warming, it's getting warm, it's going to be 50 degrees there, but don't use an air conditioning device because it uses too much power, and that power comes predominantly from coal. So there's a lot of work to do for businesses like Arçelik, I think, to voluntarily set very high standards. We did this in South Africa when we bought DeFi in 2011. We voluntarily stopped selling low energy grade refrigerators and only sold the highest energy label refrigerators. And our market share in 5 years has grown, even though they were more expensive and all the competition followed. The government was very happy. They had to invest in less coal-fired power plants. So I think, as Dr. Birol says every time, in this fight against global warming and degrading environments, the number one tool has to be energy efficiency, because it's there. The technologies are there. It's scale. We just need governments to help us regulate faster, and Turkey's done a great job, by the way. I think that example needs to be followed in further east, very populous countries. And we're helping there too. For example, in Turkey, through TÜSİAD, which we have supported in building the climate, or at least the sustainability messaging and strategy, we aim to share our experience with other companies in Turkey. And I think this is going to be an opportunity. We're growing double-digit everywhere because we are the most sustainable business in the world when it comes to appliances.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, that's interesting, that the information they got from you. But one thing is, I think both of you were just mentioning about the technology, but we see, I mean, the Minister of Environment and Urbanization and Climate Change, we see that we see the climate change as an opportunity, not a threat. I mean, so we don't need to wait for the new technologies. We need to create these technologies and sell to the other countries. So this is the opportunity. This green jobs and green technologies we have to find and sell to the other countries. That is very important. I mean, waiting for the technology already explored, already found by the other countries, that doesn't help to our development. So if you would like to stay in G20 after 20 years, we have to create new technologies and sell them to other countries. Let me give you an example. My son is graduated from Koç University. He's a lawyer. He has an entrepreneurship company, scooters. You know, only 26 years old. Now they got an investment from abroad, more than 20 million American dollars. There's a Bin scooter, 26 years old, 3 young boys. They are operating these electrical scooters, and in their company they have 270 people working in this green job. 26 years old, and now they have 10,000 scooters, and they have another 10,000 will come after 2 months. See, these are young entrepreneurship, young guys. They have initiative, and they are going to do the same in maybe in Europe, and they will go. And look at this Getir company, for example. Now they are billions of dollars. So we have to look at these green jobs, green opportunities, and you will see that these electrical scooter companies will be this micro mobility, we call it. And they will lead the mobility. Because of this COVID-19, nobody want to use this transport, I mean, public transport. And they want to use this electrical issues. To the young generation, they are already ready to use them. So we have to congratulate them. We have to, you see 270 people, and after that, maybe 2 years later, they will have 2,000 people operating all over the world. The young generation are coming very fast. We have to follow them. So, and also this year we faced 3 things in Turkey. One, in June, we witnessed one red tile problem, mucilage problem, they call it, in Marmara Sea. That's a closed sea. And we spend a lot of money to clean it. And we don't know what will happen next year. But that is because of the temperature rise in Marmara Sea and the pollution coming from the industry. That's good to hear, all good things, but who is polluting this Marmara Sea? We have to think about it. Not only industry, but also the people.
Yep.
We have to look at the issues holistically, because they were just preaching us during the COVID-19, you clean your hands 5 times a day, 10 times a day, and they washed even the streets. But the water goes to the sea. But it's affected maybe because of this COVID-19 hygienic issues. Because we only think ourselves, as I said, we never think the others. We have to think the others. The others in the water, in the sea, and they are affected now. And then we see them, when we see the mucilage or red tide problem, we started blaming each other. The municipality, ministry, people, you know, but that's easy way. And another thing, that wildfires already started in the eastern and western part of Turkey, and we lost 150,000 hectares of forestry. But that is because of the climate change, because the temperature raised 1 degree, 2 degrees, 3 degrees, and then the wildfires started, and we started blaming each other again. Then just after that, we witnessed the floods in the northern part of Turkey, but we are just managing the crisis. We are supposed to manage the risk. If we continue to manage the crisis, we spend 10,000 Turkish lira, let's say, but if we were in a position of managing the risk, we were supposed to spend only 10 Turkish lira. So that is 100 times more than, so we have to adapt, we have to be very careful. And the companies, they have a responsibility. They, in everywhere where your productions are produced, you need to have this zero waste. And now we have already regulated everything. If you have a zero waste system, you collect the plastics, papers, and everything. You can sell them. We open that way. I mean, you don't need to give it free of charge to the municipalities. You can collect them and then give it to, sell it to who because that is going to be a market. This a waste market is there, so you can sell everything, whatever you collected. And the deposit system is coming. So the regulations are, we changed the law twice, and we are going to have another law in the 6 months' time. That's going to be, the name of it is a climate law. The climate law is coming, so the emissions that you are going to produce will be under control, will be taxed, most probably, or whatever. So the rules and regulations and the acquis and also the laws already done. The government and the Ministry of Environment and Urbanization and Climate Change working very hard to have this regulation. You know, this micro-mobility, the scooters, we have a regulation. This is in the law. And also the regulation we have, only 3 countries in the world has a regulation. One of them is Turkey. My son has a company, not because of that, but I mean, but it is, you know, there are too many companies, 5 or 6 companies, but, you know, this is supposed to be done. This is supposed to be done in order to regulate the issue, because we don't want to have the pollution of that one also.
Yeah.
You know, in Europe, when you go everywhere is full of that. There's supposed to be regulations. It's up to the municipalities, and they just determine how many of them are there, blah, blah. So, thank you very much for your cooperation and also the constructive comments and also promising issues. I mean, and another question goes to our EBRD friends, Sayın, Mr. That Sayın is Turkish, no? We say they wrote it Sayın here. So, Mr. Boyne Carpenter.
Not Turkish.
That's not Turkish. Okay. I can ask you Turkish. I ask the Turkish guys in English. I can So, Mr. Boyne Carpenter, a green financial framework for business investments in combating and adapting to the climate change is crucial. So could you please elaborate the policies of financial institutions and existing and planned financial resources for mitigation adaptation in developing countries? This is the first one. And the second one they prepared for me to ask you, how do you see Turkey's achievements in terms of investments on combating climate change? Which policies would be more effective to reach finance for green investments? And finally, how would be EBRD's contribution to the carbon neutral transition in Turkey? You see, the EBRD is also the partner of one of the scooter company in Turkey. I know that. No? That's I know.
You know more than me.
Another company, I know. So they are investing. They are the partner. Yes, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Minister, and thank you to Siad for the invitation, especially to such a distinguished panel. I feel this is a sort of A-team of Turkish industry. It almost feels like if you play football, you're invited to play with Barcelona. I thought of saying Beşiktaş or Fenerbahçe or Galatasaray, but then I realized that would offend at least somebody. So thank you very much, and let me also join the chorus of congratulations to you personally, Mr. Minister, but also to the Turkish Republic for the Paris Agreement ratification and the net zero target. These are big decisions politically, but they're also big decisions economically and commercially. They made it much, much easier for people like us to invest in Turkey, and they also, I think, will be the springboard for Turkish companies in the export markets. If I turn to where is the finance for this big challenge, the answer is that finance is not the problem. If you've been here in the last few days, you will have heard that pick a number, any number. But I think we got to 1.3 trillion of financial assets looking for a green home, committed to a net zero transition. So I think the very simple answer is finance is available. Now, there are certain areas where finance is not so easy to come by. Adaptation is a big one. Green products at the front line, so green hydrogen or green steel, this is much more challenging. And that is where the efforts of people like the Green Climate Fund, like donors, I think Germany and France, for example, very recently committed money to Turkey in the climate area. That's the area where there will be a need for very specific public funding. But for a developed, sophisticated economy like Turkey, there is a lot of finance available, including from EBRD. You asked about policy interventions in this area. The answer is you have to intervene everywhere. You need policy and regulation in every aspect of society because low carbon transition affects every aspect of the society and the economy. But actually Turkey is doing very well and making a lot of progress. I think I would just make two recommendations, two ones to highlight. The first is an exit from coal. We know that coal is the most damaging, most pernicious climate problem we have. And we know that if you can get off coal, you reduce the local pollution in your country, you reduce the carbon emissions, and you increase the competitiveness of your economy globally. This is my country, the UK now. When I was a child, we were 70% dependent on coal for our electricity. This year we will be about 2%. It's really possible. It's not easy, but it's really possible. And I think that setting a target and a plan for coal exit is really, really important. The second thing is an emissions trading scheme. And I think you hinted at it in your reference to the climate law. But the emissions trading scheme is really important. It's important in terms of protecting the Turkish economy and the external competitiveness of the Turkish economy from mechanisms like the CBAM. But I think it's also really important in terms of rewarding those like these companies that are taking the steps that are driving to sort of frontier of a low carbon transition, because you're introducing the economic mechanisms that will reward those companies and encourage further investment and will deliver the most efficient low carbon transition. So I think those are the two of the many policy interventions that I think are most important. Where are Turkey's opportunities in all of this? Well, many and varied, but again, I'll pick on two. One is energy. It's a very uncertain world. We don't know what a low carbon transition looks like. We are going to need technologies that we haven't invented yet. But we know certain things for sure. There are some known knowns. One is you're going to need a lot of electricity. We know that you're going to have a highly electrified economy. And the second is that you're going to need to get most, nearly all, of that electricity from renewables. Well, you have really good renewable resource. Now, you won't have noticed this because you came to Glasgow in the one day in the year when it was actually sunny, but my country doesn't have very much sun. We also don't have a lot of land, so we have a problem with onshore wind. So we are going to have to go offshore and float turbines on the sea in order to generate renewable energy. I think we're going to be okay. I think we're going to manage that. But Turkey doesn't have to do that. You have a lot of sunny, very windy land, and you have a lot of hydropower. So I think that's one big advantage. You have a lot of renewable resource. And the second advantage is the manufacturing and industrial sector. You have a very diverse, versatile, successful manufacturing and industrial sector. And its skills are not built on access to one particular natural resource. Its skills are built on being very flexible, very efficient, very responsive. And you know that there are a lot of new opportunities coming, mini scooters being one of them. So I think those are two key advantages. So finally, coming to perhaps the least important thing to talk about, but since I'm here, and the role of EBRD. EBRD is there to do two things. One is finance. We're a bank, so we're there to provide loans, equity investment. I'm very pleased to say that both Sabancı Holding and Arçelik and the Koç Group are clients. Mr. Gumra, we haven't persuaded you yet, but the offer is on the table, and I won't let you leave until you take it. But we're very proud to support many Turkish companies. It's extremely rewarding experience for us. Also very demanding experience, I have to say. Some of the toughest clients we have. We focus largely on the private sector. We have a very strong focus on renewable energy. We have a very strong focus on industrial decarbonization. We will also work with Turkish banks, and we want to help Turkish banks adapt to this new world. The final thing I'll mention is we have a growing efforts in cities, working with cities, and something we're very proud of, which is our Green Cities Action Plan, which is where we go to cities and we say, instead of financing one good green investment, let's make a plan. And many of you talked about holistic thinking, systems thinking. Well, we say, look, let's think about what a green city looks like. How do we get you there? And then we start to invest. And we have now Istanbul, Ankara, Izmir, and most recently Gaziantep signed up. So I think those are four key areas for us. Typically, Turkey is our largest country of operation. There's always a little bit of competition with one or two of the other larger countries. But it's typically our largest country of operation, typically 500 million euro of green investment a year. We would expect to grow that now, especially given the recent commitments. But the other thing we're very keen to do is to provide support and advice. And many occasions it's not needed, but we have worked with your ministry, with other ministries on energy efficiency, the circular economy. We also want to work with Turkish companies that want help and need help to develop the roadmaps you need for this new world. Everybody needs a plan in this new world, and we're there to provide that support. So those are those two key areas, the money, first and foremost, but also the advice and the support. And I think I would just put it very simply and say, look, on the 6th of October, you opened a door to a new world. I think you found quite a few Turkish companies were already there on the other side of a door, but now the whole economy, the whole of society has to start going that direction. Well, we will be there with you.
Oh, thank you very much. Of course, I mean, very valuable answers or comments. That's important. But without money, nothing can be done. So your EBRD, our EBRD friends, they are investing in our country. They are just supporting all the business, especially the PPP projects, the public-private partnership projects. And now we are ready to have another law for public-private partnership for the treatment plants after this red tile issue in Marmara Sea. So now, in order to help the municipalities to have another door, another way, so that they can use pathway. So if they can use this public-private partnership for operating this water treatment plants and also the wastewater treatment plants, because they are all expensive, so they can use this way. So we need to understand the industry. We need to understand the financial institutions. We have to work together in order to have a sustainable development goals, in order to reach there. So that's why this panel is very important. We have to continue to have this kind of panels and discussions in Turkey, and most probably in January we are going to have a climate summit in Antalya in Turkey, and if the promise is kept, till now already done, but the COP presidency and the English, UK government already promised to have a conference, financial conference, climate finance conference in London in the first quarter of 2022. So we will see the opportunities after ratifying this agreement, because, you know, this year, when the actual last year started, this UK presidency and our friends, we promised to each other online, always. You know, if you ratify this agreement, what would you? Just like a bridge game. They opened their cards and we opened our cards. They played, we played, and finally we ratified the agreement. We already signed the memorandum of understanding of having 100, almost 200 million dollars already in Turkey. So we are ready to use with the maybe this money this finance is not only the one, it will maybe increase with the leverage to maybe 30 million in the future. The climate finance, so this country is a country where you can invest now, because already ratified the agreement, already target of 2053, and also that we will update our NDC in 1 year time also, working together with our stakeholders, with our companies, and of course we will discuss the climate law with our companies, with TÜSİAD, MÜSİAD and everyone, and we will do our best in order to have some water for the future generations to drink, to use, and some soil to be harvest, and also some air to breathe. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No question, no? Any question? Only 2 questions we can take, no time.
Right. Thank you for this organizing. It's really helpful, actually. My question to Mr. Hakan.
Who are you? Who are you?
Oh, sorry, excuse me. I'm Serhat Kısakürek. I'm the lawyer who's working in the M&A markets in Turkey and UK, one of the partner of the SECA consultancy. You say that not only buying carbon credit, also the producing the carbon credit. I think it's the most important thing of the current situation, because we're also managing to applying procedure of the gold standard for the renewable energy companies. And what we see, we are seeing that the companies generally intend to buying carbon credits, not producing, because of the investment amount. And I think it will be a problem for the trading. I really would like to hear if you have any suggestion or guidance in terms of the financial side, maybe to EBRD. I really would like to hear that if you have any suggestion to fix this construction.
Well, it sounds like a very simple question, but if it was, then Article 6 would have already been solved and we would have been talking about the major success of COP. And it isn't yet, for a multitude of reasons. I mean, the most important one is double counting has to be stopped in one way or the other. Second, cross-border investments for carbon credit and free-flowing credit has to be possible. This is only possible if governments put in the right framework and infrastructure. At the moment, there's no agreement. There is improvement, and Europe is an amazing example. I always say the Green Deal is a good deal, but ultimately Europe can only be an example because it is 8% of global emissions. Even if they do their best, it's not going to save or keep the climate at an acceptable level of warming. What will matter is emerging markets, and those are the places where these projects are going to be implemented most. So we need a global framework. That's number one. My advice to EBRD is to go back and put pressure on the governments that are dragging their feet. Number two, in creating your own carbon credits, this is the important part. Actually, when you're trying to be the most sustainable business or lead, and it's a risky area to lead because you also waste capital, you can waste human resources. But in effect, what you need to do is you need to look at every part of your business and attack everything at the same time and see where you can actually create efficiencies, whether it's in the production processes, in the kiln, for example, or if it's what your product is using in its lifetime in the consumer's home. If you can actually reduce the consumption of energy and reduce the creation of emissions through that efficiency, you're already creating carbon credits. That creates another problem. I mean, Your Excellency mentioned circularity. When you're doing that, you have to make sure that you're not creating waste. I mean, in our industry, if you replace a 10-year-old appliance with a new one, you consume 60–70% less power. And a third of all power consumption in the home comes from appliances. So you can see how important that is. But what you do with the old appliances is critical. I mean, we couldn't find, when we started this sort of drive towards improving efficiency of appliances, we couldn't find anyone to recycle the appliances that we were collecting. And so we said, okay, we'll collect appliances from any brand. It doesn't matter what brand they are. It can be competitors. But we had to build our own recycling plant in Eskişehir, giant building, big investment. But so far we've recycled 1.5 million appliances, which is huge in terms of scale. And there again, you are saving the use of virgin plastics and steel, which again saves energy and emissions. So ultimately, by attacking every part of your business, I think every business, no matter what it is, you can create credits, and you should be using those before you go and buy credits. Buying credits directly from renewable energy is credible, by the way, because it's renewable energy only.
Yeah.
But the problem is that's not how the markets work today, right?
Exactly.
And many times the carbon credits that have been purchased actually have no impact on mitigating carbon being released.
Yeah.
So that's why this Article 6 is very, very important.
And for Article 6, this morning we supported, because in the negotiations, of course, I mean, as a government, we are supportive of eliminating double counting, and making corresponding adjustments are important. Today morning we supported this issue, and I mean, we supported the position in the plenary meeting at the heads of delegation. So we know the problem, and we are supporting the EU position here.
Great.
We are not clearly speaking up, but I mean, we want to follow up, because as you said, that is very important. We need to work on that. And Article 6 is supposed to be solved here.
Yep.
In UK, in COP26. If we leave it to Egypt, then it is almost impossible. People can leave some adaptation issues to Egypt, but we have to solve the Article 6.
I'm very hopeful. I even brought sunglasses to Glasgow, so you can imagine.
Thank you very much. Any other question? Yes. The second one.
Hi, I am Burak from TSKV, Burak Çakırlar from Türkiye Sanayi Kalkınma Bankası. Mr. Carpenter mentioned green hydrogen. As a
Can be
banker,
blue also, no?
as a banker and as a citizen of the Turkish Republic, I would like to ask these valuable representatives of public sector, which group will be the first investing in green hydrogen? Do you have any plans? Because it's a very hot topic in iron and steel, cement and maritime sector in the EU, and as well as in, India, even in India. If I can take your valuable feedback.
Let me make a comment here, if you. That's okay. First of all, this is not a contest. I hope all three of us are doing it. I can give a couple of examples to you about that. Today in Enerjisa we have started a small electrolyzer ourselves with renewable energy, testing it, and it's manufacturing already its own energy for Enerjisa's existing users, for its own users. And there are other things that are linked to that, particularly how do you store the hydrogen and transfer the hydrogen. And this is where we are using the composite materials, because you cannot store it on steel or aluminum. You need to use it with composites, and the composites that we are manufacturing in US, in Europe, and also in Turkey are right now being used for those purposes. But taking that, I would like to mention one thing here. This carbon manufacturing, manufacturing your own carbon credit subject, I think it's all about R&D. I mean, we should not be the followers, we should be the leaders in creating our own technology for those. I mean, we are talking about kilns, we are talking about, there is carbon capture technology that is coming up nowadays. And we are hearing many other companies, countries, bringing those technologies to us. And Turkey, in terms of R&D support, R&D incentives, is a heaven. I mean, we are doing great here. Maybe one thing we should do more should be focusing this incentivizing a little bit more on the sustainability aspect of the R&D, but still Turkey is pretty good in this one. And why should we wait to adapt to technologies developed somewhere else while we can develop the technologies ourselves? That's the question.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I mean, I think there are no more questions. Thank you very much for your cooperation, for your valuable comments, and for coming to our pavilion. We were very happy. We are very happy to host you here, and I hope next year we will have better side events here with your help also, with your contributions. Together with the TÜSİAD, we have to thank TÜSİAD also to organize this side event. We have some gifts for you.
Thank you.
Some beautiful books, or books of our ministries. One of them is the Monumental Trees of Turkey. That's an English one. Another one, the Caves of Turkey. So we would like to give you these two as a present. And we will have a family picture, then go.
Okay. Teşekkür ederim.
Okay, thank you very much.